Hi there, I'm Godfrey Everett. Welcome to Marc and Cars.
Well, thanks for helping me out today and doing this interview with me today, Godfrey. I've known you for a few years now through the Porsche Club myself, and I'm glad we've finally had this opportunity to sit down and have a chat. Would you like to give us a bit of an outline on the type of cars you have?
Well, yes, it's the same old story, isn't it? You wish you'd never sold a car that you had, but
Yeah,
whoever's got the room to keep them. But I started out. I guess my grandfather was the influence that I had. I had a Renault 750, two of those, then a Dauphine, both rear engines, of course, and then I got a Volkswagen, and that was the end of me. That was the greatest car in the world, and of course the obvious direction you go from a Volkswagen is a Porsche. So I had this hankering for a Porsche for a long time, nearly bought a 356 in Melbourne. Then I was lucky enough, back in Perth, started a business and all that sort of thing, and I was lucky enough to find the 356, which I've got, the 58 Cabriolet, which would you know was for sale in a car yard. I just couldn't.
What year was that?
That was in 1985.
Yeah, good one. Yeah. And where was the car yard in Perth?
Yeah, the car yard was just down by the causeway.
Sure.
Sitting in the yard there, and I drove past on a Sunday. I thought, Jesus, that's the car that I've always wanted, And I thought there's going to be 5 people in Perth who'll kill to own that car. So I made sure that I got there at about 6 o'clock Monday morning.
Really, 6 a.m. Yeah.
The price was actually listed in the paper, and it said no offers. So I'd written the check out, and I waited in the thing till the salesman arrived. And as he arrived, I rushed up to him and said, I want to buy the 356. And he said, hang on for a bit, let me get in the building, will you? So anyway, he got in the building, and I kept prodding the check at him. And I said, could you give me a receipt? And finally he gave me a receipt, and just as he gave me the receipt, a Porsche pulled up. And this guy swaggered in and said, oh look, I've spoken to the boss yesterday, and I've arranged to buy the 356. And my salesman said, look, I'm sorry sir, but this gentleman's already bought it. So there were a few words ensued, but I got it.
And the colour and colourway of the car is silver?
Yeah. Was
it silver when you bought it?
Yes, it was. It was silver. The history of the car was that it belonged to Peter Briggs, and it was in the York Motor Museum.
Sure, okay. Yeah. And overall, obviously, besides the honeymoon period of getting a new 356 after driving a Volkswagen around and that, and the thing feeling as fantastic as it was, in hindsight, did it meet your expectations? How was the condition of the car when you bought it?
Oh, it was in good nick. It was in very good nick. After 12 months or so, I had it reupholstered. I got some German leather and had it reupholstered.
Sure, yeah.
And I had it painted. There was a little bit of rust in it, but the engine was okay. We just painted the tin wear.
Yeah, good.
And in fact, I've never overhauled the engine. I've top overhauled it, but that's all. But,
yeah, sure.
And it's been painted a couple of times. But look, it's a brilliant motor car. I could imagine in 1958 it was a supercar.
Sure.
Now that bears no resemblance to a modern supercar, but back then, boy, it was something else.
I'm sure the cars in another 60 years. Well, if we still have cars then, will resemble nothing like the supercars we have today either. So the comparison is probably a fair one.
Yeah. Well, my brother, he was into MGs, and he had a similar aged MG to the 356, and I tell you, that chalk and cheese.
Was that an MGA? Is that what that was back then?
I think it was an A. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
but
sure.
Chalk and cheese, was. Like a magnificent motor car. But I immediately joined the Porsche Club and started doing the events at Wanneroo and all this sort of thing, and trying my hardest and learning how to drive a car, because let's face it, none of us know until we get out there and give it a bit of a stick.
You're right about that. Well, we find out how good we're not, don't we?
Exactly, absolutely, but it became apparent that the car was a lot of fun, but not really competitive, and I needed to be competitive. So I started looking around for a 911.
Yes.
So that's when I found the 911 Targa, 73 Targa, which I've still got, and I bought that and started to compete in club events. And
how long after you bought your 356 did you buy the 911?
It was probably only about 6 months.
Yeah, okay.
So I bought them both in 1985. Yeah, and I've had them both ever since.
It's a pretty rapid garage expansion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but you know, you've got to do it when you've got the flash.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And you know, and of course, I went on to do quite a lot of events in the 911. You know, all of the classic rallies locally, all the Porsche Club events, and we had plenty of those, and still do, of course. And you know, then I started to broaden my horizons. I thought, gee whiz, you know, a bloke could really go and do Targa Tasmania. So, you know, we sort of started to settle into that, and I did the Targa Tasmania 3 times. And once I'd done that, and I thought, Jesus, you know, I'd always had a fascination with the London-Sydney Marathon. I really, really did want to do that if I could possibly do it.
How often was it held back when the event was on? Was it every like 2 or 3 years or 4 years or something like that?
No, I don't know that it was any particular. The first one was in '68, and that was the absolute outright proper London-Sydney serious. You know, I can
imagine, yeah.
Yeah, and of course the boats were shipped from point to point and through India and all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
I think they did another one which was fairly serious, and then it became more of an event that you could do. Chaps could do it.
So more of a regularity event.
Yeah, and it was a sort of a paid for. Yeah,
Sure.
well, there were closed road stages everywhere.
Sure.
So they being closed road, it was as fast as you could go. You know?
Yes.
And with Graham Lloyd, we both decided we'd do this, and we'd work towards doing that. Perhaps I should just go back a tad. I had a serious accident in the last Targa Tasmania I did, and that's why we rebuilt the car. And I thought, well, I'm going to keep away from trees, so I started racing it at Wanneroo. And we had a series up there, the Porsche Cup series, our own little.
Okay, yeah.
The WA Sporting Car Club said, look, if you can get 10 Porsches, you can have your own race. So we did that. Get sick of going around in the same circle. So you know, but I kept thinking about the London-Sydney, and so once we committed to that, we had to. The car was not suitable for doing track work, you know.
Sure. More of like an open road rally car.
Yeah,
set up, I imagine.
It's a gravel rally, so
yeah, sure.
It becomes completely useless on bitumen route. Well, that's not true, but not so good on bitumen.
Sure.
So with that in mind, Graham Lloyd and I decided to do the Shield of Africa, which we did in his car. As I mentioned before, we actually rolled the thing 5 or 6 times in Lesotho, and Lesotho, if you've ever been there, it's a hilly place, and you drive around these hills, there's nothing to stop you falling off the edge, and there's 1,000-foot sheer drops.
Oh, really?
It is
truly up in the high mountains.
Yeah, but we did, at one point we were coming around the bend, and the back wheels got off the edge, and the car went over the edge, and I thought, boy, there's going to be silence now for a while. Until
you hit the ground.
And that's going to be the end of it. But luckily, it was a valley, so we actually rolled down the valley. We rolled probably, I guess 5 or 6 times at least, and the car ended up on its wheels. So we were actually able, and the car was tough as nails. Truly, it was amazing. We were able to drive and push the car back to the road and pull it up over with the help of other competitors. And in fact, so we got to the next checkpoint. We did the next event. Okay. The big problem was the roof had been squashed in, and we had trouble with our helmets.
Sure.
But we did that event, and then the next overnight stop, we bashed the roof out.
And that was in Graham's car, was it?
Graham's car.
And that's a 911 as well, I saw in the...
Yeah, that's a yellow 911, yeah. In fact, that car eventually, Francis Tuttle bought that car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a beautiful...
Even knowing it after what had been through.
Yeah, well, he's the one that bashed the roof.
Okay, sure.
Shield of Africa, which was probably one of the highlights of my motorsport career, of course, and the other one is racing at Bathurst. Sure. They are the 2 absolute highlights. Mm-hmm. But you know, the London-Sydney was a marvellous event. You know, to just
a lot of hours in the car every day, judging by the number of kilometres and the number of countries.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, there was no service crew allowed. You had to carry all your own spare parts and all that. So it was fairly restrictive. We did have an unfortunate incident, though. We blew the engine in the Czech Republic.
Right, okay.
So we actually had to, we hunted around, and we eventually bought an engine that a guy in Holland had. And he said, look, it happened to be a weekend, so he he said, look, I'm going to somewhere for the weekend, so he said, I'll drive it down to the Czech Republic. So he drove the engine down for us, and we fitted the engine, and then we got going again, and caught up with everybody in Turkey.
Did you say it happened in the Czech Republic, the engine failure?
Yes.
How's the irony of that? That's where Ferdinand Porsche was originally born in what's now the Czech Republic.
Well, that's right. It was all, there was, that's absolutely right. That whole area is, what do they call it?
The old Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Exactly, yes, that's right, yeah. And of course that cemented my later passion for Tatras.
Yeah, did it really?
and I eventually did buy a Tatra 613, which is now for sale from that museum. That's
the Gosford Motor Museum's recent closure.
They bought it off me eventually, and now
I think I remember having a discussion with you. The gentleman came around and offered you some money for your 356 at the same time.
Well, that's right. He bought the Tatra 613, but when he walked through the garage and saw the 356, he offered some pretty big money for that. But
if we can just backpedal a bit in the conversation, you mentioned the Porsche Club of Western Australia. I understand you were there when they had their first meeting.
Well, not quite. I was probably there for the second, but I do add today. I am in fact the longest serving member of the Porsche Club. So I joined the Porsche Club in 1985 as soon as I bought the 356, and have been a consistent member ever since. And what a good club it is. And
with regards to the cars themselves, can we you mentioned earlier you haven't done a lot of work to the 356, or had to do a lot of work to the 356, but clearly with the competition side of the 911, there's been quite a few modifications done to that car along the way for it to meet what requirements you had of it on any given season, I guess.
Exactly. For the London Sydney, we also put we had a carbon fibre under tray built for it.
Carbon fibre,
because I was in the aircraft industry.
Yeah, sure. I was going to ask about that simply because carbon fibre in 99, 2000. There weren't a lot of cars with that material back then.
No, well that's right. Well, because being in the aircraft industry, I knew a man, and he was able to do it.
I noticed the car's got a half cage in it still.
Yeah.
Has it ever had a full cage?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've still got all the bars in the other cage.
Okay, so the front half bolts in, does it?
I'll tell you what actually happened there. When I did target Tasmania the first time, we were at one of the places, quite a hilly spot, and there was you could quite easily drop off the edge, and they had wire rope.
Sure. Yeah, I know the type.
Yeah, and I saw a 911 had gone under it.
Wow. Okay.
And I thought, holy shit, that was like a coupe, and I thought, boy, if I went under that in my car, it'd probably take my head off because it's a Targa and it's
sure.
So I came back and had the full cage fitted,
sure.
And that worked pretty well right up until I stopped racing actually. But I was able to take all the bars out, just leave the half cage in. So.
And when did you last use the car competitively, the 911?
Well, the last competitive thing we did was Targa West, 2008. I think that was it. Yeah.
Geez, that's 11 years ago now.
Time flies, and so do your reflexes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
In fact, I'd pretty much lost them by that point in time. But I've taken my son to Wanneroo in the car, and he's getting good. He's getting good.
Oh, good. Mm-hmm.
So he'll take over the reins.
Yeah, hopefully he maintains the enthusiasm for the market. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he will. Yeah.
Cars themselves. Do you ever see yourself moving on, or do you think you'll leave that as a problem to the family when you're no longer around?
Look, I suppose it all depends on your situation and how you end up. Because I've been retired now for 4 years. I didn't think we'd spend this much money, but so you never know, do you?
Sure.
I've often thought, look, I'm not convinced that my kids, I've got a boy and a girl, are capable of keeping something like the 356 going.
Sure.
I think
you do have to have a passion.
You have to have an absolute passion, and also there's not too many people around know much about them anymore.
Sure.
But for instance, like my daughter, I mean, that would, it just wouldn't work. It'd be breaking down. She'd be getting ripped off. And
sure. I understand what you're saying.
Air-cooled cars, fires, all that. I dare say one day I'll sell the 356, and it's probably somebody else's turn, you know.
Yeah, they do have that feel about them as a car, don't they? Like,
yeah.
You know, besides a timeless design, they're a sort of car that, you know, you have for a while and someone else gets to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if either kid said to me, look, I desperately, please Dad, please, I'll do anything, I would probably pass it on. But look, as you can see, I mean, I don't change cars quickly. You know, I mean, I just can't. The other day we were having lunch and one of the guys was there, and he reeled off all the Porsches that he'd owned, and he'd owned about 25 Porsches.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And I thought, God, I couldn't stand that. You know, truly, I was amazed, and so I piped up and said, well, I've had two, and I've had them for 35 years.
Some people need to have the latest and greatest, and some people can appreciate a moment in time, can't
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, then this has been a great chat, so I really appreciate your time, Godfrey. And
pleasure, mate.
Maybe we'll go and have a look at the cars and have a bit of a talk through them. How's that sound?
Absolutely.
Good one.
Why not?
Tell us about the Torno on the 356.
Yeah, well, I back in the day, I started doing all the around the houses, notably the York Flying 50 and Northam and Albany, and I had read in a magazine, a Porsche magazine out of the States, this guy had built a racing cover, something like that, out of aluminium, and I thought, boy, that'd be fantastic. So I asked Willie Baumeister if he could build one, and he did. He built that, which really does the job. And it is the only it's the only modification to this car that takes it away from being a standard car. Mm-hmm. Tell a lie, perhaps the wheels are an inch wider.
Yeah, these look like 5.5s on here, chrome.
That's right. Yeah. This we had to do this because the London Sydney we had to have a bag tank.
A fuel cell, sure.
Mm. Mm-hmm. So we did this, but that isn't the right wheel. But it's made in such a way that, and I've got 2 spare wheels out in the other garage. This will take 2 spare wheels.
Oh yeah, okay.
Mm.
So this is a twin spark, obviously.
Yep.
3.2, did you say?
Yep.
And what do you think power output of this motor is these days?
Look, we've never put it on the dyno. No, I really. No, I don't know.
It's got all the fruit on it.
But you'll notice back here, there's all of these things are stiffeners. You know, there's things there that most 911s haven't got, as well as the seam welding. So she's a pretty tough little piece of kit.
Well, it's been a great afternoon spending it here with Godfrey around at his place, and it's been fantastic. Him enjoying spending time with us, sharing the stories he has about his cars. You can see in the background there we've got his 911 and his 356, and things wandering around there as well. The cars have just been an absolute delight to talk about. The stories have been fantastic, and he's been very generous with his time. So if you've not been a viewer on the channel before, thanks for watching for the first time. Please think about subscribing, and I look forward to seeing you next video.